Hello, welcome back to Bloodborne. This is going to be part 13. Alright, for this mode, we want to go ahead and play online this time. Go ahead and hold on to those runes, or the blood echoes real quick. I got every Souls game in here. Souls, runes, echoes. That's hilarious. Hit up the workshop. Go ahead and upgrade whatever you need to upgrade. Repair your stuff after a long visit at the Yarhog Ghoul on Hypogean Jail. If there's anything new you would like to add, do so now. Change up runes, and continue on. So I'm going to go ahead and change my messenger's little outfits. I think we've seen enough of the bloody bandages for a playthrough. Come down here and buy whatever you need to buy. With defeating Parl, we ended up getting the Lightning Hunter badge. So getting the Spark Hunter badge here. So even though he's optional, he's very useful to defeat anyway, because you end up getting access to all the lightning stuff. So now we can buy bolt paper. Nothing, pretty much the Tonitrus from that set as well, but you get a free one, so there's no point in having two. Nothing for uniforms, and nothing for the left-handed weapons. And that's it. So pretty useful only just for the bolt paper, to be honest. Went ahead and went online mode, so you're going to start seeing little blood spots. This is where other players have died in the world. These are messages, the blue versions. You can either rate somebody's message. If you're playing the game currently and you put a message down and somebody rates it, you'll actually get like a little health buff. Get your HP restored and stuff like that. That's a pretty cool way to interact with other players around the entire world. But mainly why we went online is because we want to start doing the Chalice dungeons now. Before we change the world state. So we just want to get one of the dungeons done, and this is done by beating the blood-starving beast back in Old Yarnum. These right here, these altars will be how we make the Chalice dungeons. Chalice dungeons is no more than just optional side content. You do not really need to play them or use them in order to beat the game, but they do have a lot of added value when it comes to new enemies that can be missed the entire game, or in general, just a whole nother, way to get echoes and items. Not so much in the way of story, but doing the Chalice dungeons is what I consider to be part of the game, because doing them will allow us to fight a boss towards the end that you need to get for achievement. Now, there's a lot of different things you can do to make the Chalice dungeons, but we are going to go in the correct order in this playthrough. I'm not going to use the glyphs, which are basically just false dungeons that people have created around the entire world, just to give you kind of like a skip to whatever dungeons you want so you can farm runes, or get other different versions of weapons and stuff like that. Because in Bloodborne, you can have the option of having lost and uncanny versions of the regular weapons. And really all it is it'll change what kind of gems you can slot into the weapons. You just use the wiki to find out what version you want to go for and what kind of blood gems you are trying to farm away to make your build the best it can be. You will need blood echoes for these things. Sometimes they start to get really expensive, so you just hold on to as much as you have. And then go ahead and activate this first ritual altar. Use the ritual altar to create a chalice dungeon with the chalice ritual, or to search for chalice dungeons created by hunters in other worlds. If you want to search chalices by glyph, there is wikis or Google in order to get a specific dungeon that you might want. But for this case, we want to go ahead and conduct a chalice ritual to create a chalice dungeon by choosing chalice ritual. And then here you're going to see that we have 4 different types of chalices: the Pthumeru, Intertomb, Loran, and the Ease chalice. For now, we only earned Pthumeru Chalice. So if you take a look at this little number, that is... don't think I can actually get the health bar to show up on this. So if you were to look down where it says, like, the 3 bars, and then the number 1 next to it, that is pretty much the depth. The depth is just telling you how difficult a dungeon is. So at depth 1, it's easy, all the way up to depth 5, which is kind of really difficult. And then what kind of chalice it is, Pthumeru. How many blood echoes it requires, 1,000. So if you need to, you can just pop over to the Hypogean Gel, kill a few things, come back with 1,000 runes, or pop one of your cold blood dues. And then how many ritual items are required to make this dungeon. So in this case, it's going to be 1,000 blood echoes and 2 ritual blood 1 versions. So we're going to go ahead and create this. Then you can, as long as you have the 2, which we get the ritual bloods from that little altar where all of the beast men were kind of praying to the dead hanging beast back in Old Yarnum. That's where you would find these at. Now, if for whatever reason you actually sold these, there is a way to get them back. The ritual finished and chalice rests upon the altar. You may now explore the dungeon. Because nothing that I know of drops ritual blood in the base version of the game. So you would have to actually come over here, and then after defeating a few bosses or progressing the world in different ways, you will actually have to buy the ritual bloods for 2,500 apiece. So 5,000 just to get the materials you need to build the first dungeon. Not recommended to really sell anything unless you're desperate, or if you're selling the doll clothes just for echoes.
Very well. Let the echoes become your strength. Let me... Farewell, good May. Welcome. What is it? Very well. Farewell, good May.
Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and move on. Alright. Chamber of the Seal. Again, these are completely optional, so you do not have to do these. But I think they're part of the story, and, you know, they're really fun to do. Alright, so the whole reason why we really bought the hand lantern is because these areas are really dark, so you want to go ahead and pop that on for the entire dungeon. Now, these are just little dungeons that are going to give us a little bit of a problem at times. Difficult ways to go. Enemies that spawn out of nowhere and stuff like that. So there's like a couple of like combat challenges and puzzles and stuff like that that you have to figure out in order to progress through this area. For the most part, it is pretty easy stuff, but if you don't know what you're doing the first time around, you are going to be lost and acting like, what the heck am I supposed to do? So you want to go ahead and light every lamp, because these are not lit, even though you pop right in front of it. And then you're going to come across little rooms like this. Now, sometimes when we progress, and you're going to see through a lot of it, there's going to be different ways to go. Like you can have a left or a right or a door in front of you. And you'll know when some of the other areas are optional or, you know, not ways to progress, because they're going to give you different items and stuff like that. And it is worth exploring a Chalice dungeon to its completion, because you are going to end up picking up new Chalice materials that you are going to need. And even some of these house other chalices so that you can continue your Chalice dungeon experience. So a lot of the time these are generated. If you were to play a different kind of chalice, like a root chalice, which we'll find eventually, they're going to randomly generate these maps, but the maps that we're going to go through are part of the story, and they will always look the same. So you do not have to worry about your Chalice dungeon looking different from mine, as long as you're doing the base story versions. So you can already see we have rats. Should be easy to deal with. And as I said, you just want to be careful always throughout Bloodborne. Sometimes we're going to have guys that throw Molotovs or poison knives at us. They're like little zombie dudes. And yeah, so we turned on online mode because in Chalice dungeons, the notes left behind, they are really good for sometimes because players will show you directions that you can go or directions that you should probably skip because the rewards aren't that great. You're in the know, right? But a hunter is never alone. Okay. Just a little famous piece of dialogue between the Bloodborne community there, being in the know. Anytime you come across blue lanterns, this is where you need to progress, but it is locked. We need to go find the switch or lever in order to unlock that gate. And this is kind of like the first hint at there's a lot of different paths you can take. So coming up here, we can see there's already a guy right there, and there's a little kind of tunnel right here. So we want to walk up, take out this threat first since he has oversight over the entire battlefield. Be careful for these little areas. This is oil. He likes to throw Molotovs that can... Yep. So if he ends up throwing a Molotov and it connects with you down here, you're actually going to take a lot more damage because this is like an oil field. But just be aware. But these guys are no better than the Yarnamites. There are some more dangerous versions of those dudes, but we're not going to come across them for a little bit. So these guys kind of have like the same moveset as the Yarnamites. They're just like zombie dudes. Chalice dungeons can house hidden walls, just like we're used to in the Dark Souls game. Sometimes people like to play tricks and say like strike this wall or whatever. just, you know, whatever, just do it. I know they shouldn't be playing games like that, but it is what it is. So seeing how extremely weak some of these dudes are and the items that they give you is kind of an indication of what time you should be doing these dungeons. So he's given Bloodstone Shards and he only takes 4 pokes, as opposed to like having to run around behind them and do the backside, the visceral stuff. You were poisoned, so you know they're trying to tell you something here. Alright, so these guys will continuously come around and harass you until we deal with our first Bell Maiden that we are going to find. Bell Maidens are basically just NPCs that are summoning through blood ritual those enemies. They give you echoes, not a whole lot. But they're always going to continuously regenerate until we deal with the Bell Maiden itself. And there are times when Bell Maidens are hidden behind stuff, or in different areas of the dungeon, and they can just make life miserable because all they're doing is summoning stuff that's harassing us. So like little doors like this, you'll find some notes that say like strike this or hit this. And they'll say like there's a hidden wall, you're in the know, or something like that. Just kind of go with the joke, whatever. Hit the wall, make sure that there are no hidden walls actually really there. But we won't come across hidden walls for some of the more later Chalice dungeons, so nothing in the beginning areas. So you saw there's a giant little rat pit. They're not really hard to deal with, but if you do let like all 5 of those jump at you, you could die to rats pretty quickly. So that is some of the side routes there for this opening layer. And we want to start climbing. These guys like to throw poison knives, so just kind of dodge off to the left or right. Sometimes they have like this little animation where they throw 2 at a time, so just be careful. Don't get knocked off by those giant saw blades. That note said beware of old woman. And this is the Bell Maidens. Once you kill the Bell Maiden, all of her summons will die with her. Those dudes with the flaming swords or sickles will do a lot of damage because of the extra fire damage added on you. So if you want to go in here with the charge set, just to avoid those fire damage, then go ahead and do so. Yep. These little things, you can kind of pop them to get rid of the smoke. They're just smoke screens. Over here we have an instance of our first big giant, I don't even know what to call them. Just a giant guy, I don't know. Club dude. These guys are very dangerous. They can be parried. They're pretty much just like trolls, just parry bait. But if they get a couple of hits off on you, they hit really freaking hard for no reason. Easiest thing to do is just get behind them. See the white ghost there that had someone running around. That is an actual player that is doing this right now. So Bloodborne is alive and well, still to this day. Anytime you come across a blue lantern holding statue with a device, this is how we open up the next area. Giant message. Somewhere a door to the old labyrinth has opened. Okay. And all you gotta do is just make your way back. If you really want to, you can lay shining coins around the dungeon to mark where you have been. That is the biggest use for shining coins, is for the Chalice dungeons. So we've actually picked up a few of them, and they are sold for about 20 a piece, so they're very cheap. But they are used to light one's way, is basically what the flavor text was at the bottom there. And it'll stay for a hot minute, so you'll be able to kind of mark areas that you visited, so you don't have to like keep running in circles around the dungeon. And then after that, we're going to open the door and proceed through the next lair. So every lair is going to have like a boss after you open the gate, or it's going to have like a side area that you can visit before fighting the boss. Sometimes you're going to have both. Like if we enter the dungeon and we could have an optional path to the left or right before we go straight. And then once you clear one layer, you go to the next, you can actually have one that does the same thing where it's at the beginning, defeat the boss, and then one at the end. So chalicing can be an adventure in its own right. But here we go, we're fighting up the first boss of the Chalice experience. And an undead giant just comes slicing through. And really, this is just another one of those fights where I'm showcasing you do not want to really want to be locked on to these dudes, just so you can get those big rolls off. Yep. So they hurt a lot. If there is a parry way to do that, which I don't think there is, then feel free to let me know if you ever find one. But you really just want to hack away at its legs and its like injured spots, because it'll just do like a blood proc, like from Dark Souls, where it just takes out a huge chunk of health. And that's pretty much where they're only weak at, is around their legs. So anything wide slashing or anything like that, just slash at their legs, they'll eventually drop. Now, you can choose to go back to the Hunter's Dream, and you will always be able to come back to these lamps through the Chalice dungeon that you created if you start running out of supplies. So you saw, even though I have like a good setup with defense and everything, I still took heavy damage from that one giant alone. And, I mean, these dudes, no matter what, the bosses always hit hard in this game, so just something to be aware of. That's why we kind of went with a +6 weapon, because that could have been a longer encounter had it not been what I had. But we'll go ahead. And most of the, like all of the time, whenever you progress the dungeon, it's going to have another lamp, like almost immediately where you spawn into. So this is the Pthumerian Labyrinth Layer 2. We only have one door to choose, so pick it. And then another lamp. So the lamps are spaced out pretty evenly here. Okay. Before you run left or right, make sure you kind of zone around, scan. Make sure we're not going to run into any guy. Here's the door. Every now and again, the zombie dudes kind of like to lay behind these things, so they'll just spawn out of nowhere. Reeks of ambush. See, so people are leaving notes. They're trying to tell you, like, hey, you're going to go in there, and it's going to be rough. Then for rooms like this, you do kind of want to skirt around because sometimes there's, yep, there it is, traps. So if you need to, more light, pull up the torch. You can use those traps, like you can kind of kite the enemies around, use them to help you out. Or just kind of attack them to get rid of those traps for good, if they're giving you any kind of troubles. And see, they're gone. At least until you die and reset the room. So we know that there's a Bell Maiden that is summoning stuff. Now, when you clear a room, be advised that you actually can spawn in a bloodsucker mosquito. We haven't encountered those things quite yet. They are aplenty in another optional zone of the game, and they are some of the worst fucking things to fight. Their movements are erratic, and they just hit way too hard for what they are. So here's an ambush point. You see, they're not really worth fighting, so you kind of want to avoid the traps as much as you can. Smoke screen. Kind of skirt around the corners, pick up items as you find them. So now they're really turning up the pressure to kind of tell you to go find the Bell Maiden so you don't have to deal with those. And honestly, the best way to deal with them is just rush them. Okay. And a good way to know that if you're in an area that you don't want to be at right now is to check to see if the Blue Lantern statue is there, which it is. So this is the area that we want to continue, meaning that we want to go backwards in order to check out the other side areas before we open up that. Collect more items along the way. Sometimes you'll be able to see them They like to spawn in these kind of rooms. Don't think we'll have to worry about it for now. But if you do end up getting one, you can fight it or just kind of run away from it. They hop around very disgustingly. Go ahead and pop over here. Didn't really want to take a chance with him since he's on the stairs. These little side chests, sometimes you're going to get bigger ones that give you better stuff, so this one gave us Ritual Blood 2 versions. So again, this is why we want to search every area of the Chalice Dungeon. So the message earlier was saying beware of an ambush. So people were trying to be helpful there. These guys with the little harpoon cane or whatever that is probably the most dangerous enemy variation of those dudes, just because of the range. But yeah, so going back to those Ritual Blood 2 versions, so yeah, if you are thorough in your exploration through a Chalice Dungeon, you are actually going to net some materials to make the next Chalice Dungeon. So it's just worth your time rather than trying to buy stuff or farm it from other areas. These guys absolutely have like shit vision. So if you just kind of walk, be patient, take your time, you can get behind them and pull off backstabs. I probably recommend not being locked on because sometimes it sucks. And it like makes you whip around because of that damn device. They are a good source at dropping blood gems that you just saw there. So this one's a 10.5, probably the highest we've seen so far, so you know it's going to go into our weapon. This add-up one that we found earlier through the boss encounter with the troll, or the giant, is a blunt attack up and adds physical attack 4.8%, or plus 4.8. So this is a really good rune for the Tonitrus, making that weapon more viable, just by adding some bloodstones. Which is why I say any weapon in Bloodborne can be used to finish the game to its entirety. Go ahead and pop this. Get your big message of unlocked. Just be careful when you run around because it's hard to tell when those blood creatures are going to spawn in. Like I said, most of the time, though, they do like these open rooms that you already visited, so it's not too much of an issue. And then just kind of go backwards, retrace your steps, and find the door. And if you need to, head back to the Hunter's Dream in order to kind of heal yourself. Reeks of fatty. Okay, they're kind of giving us a hint at what the next boss is. Okay, the Watchers. These dudes kind of suck. If they gang up on you really quickly, they can eliminate you pretty fast. Their moves are sporadic. That guy likes to shoot you. He'll kind of take swipes at you there, the stupid lantern. Kind of want to draw the two melee attackers away. Come back to this guy, get underneath him. He can't really do much to you. There you go. And that's the idea. You just want to get the melee guy out of melee mode. Or out of range mode, I mean. And then just kind of deal with these guys with successful parries or whatever you can do. Yeah, due to being a skill build, we are going to have really good viscerals that are going to get pulled out from here. Alright, so with that battle won, we went ahead and got the Pthumeru Chalice and a Tempering Bloodstone Gem. Level 2 version. So we've already got those before. Now we got 2 of them. So if you want to make your weapon 20% stronger, there you go. The saddest thing is that you cannot redo the boss fights unless you recreate the dungeon. So if there's a specific boss you want to fight again, you'll have to remake the dungeon completely. Delete it and then remake it. I'll go ahead and light the lamp. So like I said, the strat for that is kind of bait them around, get the 2 melee guys away from the ranged dude, get him out of range mode by just continuously laying the pain. You can get underneath him, watch for the lantern swipes, and they're actually pretty easy to deal with. As long as you can pull off successful parries and you're a skill build, you'll defeat them in pretty much one shot at this point. But you'll get their timing down because there's plenty of those. I mean, you already saw a couple of them. They're just regular enemies turned into bosses. So after that's complete, go ahead and drop. If you can run off the edges without dying, you'll just take a little bit of damage. So if you're not really worried about that, then do your thing. Okay, layer 3. Pop the lamp, return to the hunter's ring if you need to replenish your items, but we will continue on. There's our locked door. The cool thing about the final layer is, like, you'll know you're at a final layer of a dungeon if you have NPC summon help. So this is Prospector Oleg. We are not going to summon him right now, because I would rather summon him for the boss fight rather than taking him through the entire dungeon. Now, if on the offhand you need to do that, there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to that stuff. If you are struggling with the dungeon's main area, then take an NPC help, and they will help you. So this area can be very miserable. Yep, because of those guys. Alright, so first things first, we want to go ahead and take care of these charging enemies. Find the bell maiden. I don't really know what the point of shooting the cannons is. I haven't really found a use for doing it. I guess if you're lucky and you line up an enemy, you can kind of give them a shot, one-hit kill, but I've never been able to pull it off. Yeah, we want to kill anything that has high ground advantage over us because they're probably going to throw some stupid crap right at you. then kind of kite around the rooms. Use the corners. Use the pillars. These things are like pretty much cosmic horrors, and right there you can see a critter. So critters do exist in these dungeons as well. They'll just do the same thing they've always done and just kind of drop stuff, but they're going to drop more than anything. Instead of upgrade mats, it's going to be bloodstone gems. So they can be, if they disappear on you, just go ahead and reset the world state, and then it'll bring them right back to their spot. These things are cosmic horrors. Most dangerous move is that damn fireball, and then some kind of like little side swipe they do. Yep. Easiest way to deal with them is to get behind them and then just slash away. Watch out for that goop. They can't do anything as long as you get behind them and then grab this little stuff right here for the Arcane Haze, which is a very good and random drop from these things, so we're pretty good right now with that. We're going to get an item that actually can extract those things, because you're going to need Arcane Haze for the much later dungeons. So even though they look big and scary and intimidating, it's worth your time to kill them, because you have a chance of getting those. And continue to skirt around the edges here. Those things will be like in droves at the end of the game. Sometimes I just click through and I forget what I grabbed, so we'll know that when we go to the workshop. And then just kind of run around the underbottom here. Usually there's only one of those things around here, but sometimes there can be two. So if you need to, just reset your world state, run back under and see if one might have gotten away from you. Now where these guys get kind of dangerous is if you are pinched against a corner and you can't get behind them as well. So that's good, we want those. These little devices will just drop cages that you can use to kind of shortcut your way up. Yeah, pretty useless to be honest, so we don't really want to use those. So that was a tempering 2. So minimal 5.3% versus the 10.5%. So if you bring the NPC help here, I mean, obviously it's going to do exactly that, just help you out with defeating that area. Those ladies could be a gigantic problem, so we're kind of lucky that she didn't want to take swipes at me. Yeah, these tiny little rooms, you won't be able to sneak behind those guys whenever we do encounter them. They're just right in the right direction for noticing where you're at. See, that's a trick note. They're trying to tell you to be inquisitive. So they're saying, oh, hit the wall. There might be something behind it. There's not. These early dungeons, there won't be for a while. And when we do come across them, I mean, they're very far and, few in between. And for the most part, really negligible, too, because they don't give you shit. So coming up here, we want to go ahead and climb the ladder to get to the top portion. This is, of course, very optional. This is just for more stuff. Fear Beast. Okay. So that's people's ways of saying, like, yeah, that was a shit little item there. But nothing wrong with getting extra blood vials, especially if you use them through the dungeon. Because, as you've seen, the enemies don't really drop them here. Tomb Mold, that's another chalice ritual item. And then go ahead and run across the top portion of the area that we were just in. Sometimes there will be enemies in the corner, so just be careful of them as we come across it. And if you get lost and get spun around too much, put your shiny coins down and kind of be like, okay, I've already identified this area. Yeah, nothing much for the top portions, to be honest. But sometimes in the later dungeons, you're going to find that there are areas to kind of progress through. Usually lit with a torch like this. But all this does is just take us right back. So that is a case and product of if we were to use one of the levers to climb up here, we would have actually ran into the ambush in that direction. So nothing to worry about, just kind of escape this, run away. Those are the creatures. That is like a blood-sucking mosquito, and they absolutely suck. Just stay away from them. They're not really worth the kill, because they just do way too much damage, and they're very erratic in the way they move, and we're going to deal with plenty of those anyway. Generally, you'll know where, if you look at the cannons will point you in the direction of where you came from, because the idea is that you're supposed to get ambushed by those things. I'm not really sure where the drop-off was in that. Go ahead and pop the gate. And then, like I said, this is an instance of a optional area to explore. So if we continued all the way down here, you're going to get to these bigger gates. And the bigger gates are the final boss to the chalice that you created. But you want to take these optional paths first. And We didn't summon the NPC help because, you know, they have a certain amount of blood vials and stuff like that as well. So if we were to go through the entire dungeon and then use Oleg through the experience, he would have helped killing a lot of the stuff. But if he had been hit too much because NPCs don't know how to really guard themselves, he'd have no way to heal himself during the boss fight. Which, in this instance, kind of hit or miss on if you really do want to bring Oleg, because I know he's bugged in this area. Sometimes he'll just kind of stand in the middle or not even come into the boss room at all. And that's problematic when you're summoning for help. So 2 molds, Hunter's Mark. So you get some good replenishment on items here. Check the sides for the doors, optional gates. These are what you really want to come here for. Yeah, so they'll play like a little special sound saying like you found something really important, very cool, good job. Okay. Come over here. Pop an ambush on one. And then just remember your routing. Anywhere that you didn't go, go ahead and explore it. For the most part, you really want to hit those big chests. Big chest will give you the best reward for that area. And as you saw that little, like, the 2 mold one or whatever we got, those are also very good. They're scattered, so you just really want to explore as much as you can. Sometimes there's going to be notes that tell you to turn back, or they're just trying to tell you that that's not the direction you're supposed to go. Pop that before you was a problem. Yep. And this was just the bottom of the area of the top. So it's just kind of telling you, like, dead end. Turn around. But sometimes you can find critters or other things, so it's just useful, very useful to just kind of run around and identify what you can. And that'll do it for that. So before you fight the boss, it is generally good advice to go ahead and go back to the Hunter's Dream. Spend any echoes before you want to lose those in the battle. Continue on with your loop. Add any of the new Bloodstone gems that you got immediately. So you can see these are going to upgrade me pretty heavily now. So this spear is going to hit extremely hard. Or at least that's the idea, that it should hit. Yep, so with 2 10.5 increases, I mean, we have a weapon that now hits for, what, 21% even more damage than it came base version-wise with the upgrades. And then no new triangles, so, you know, whatever, we'll have to just deal with that, but we still keep our poison effect added. And if you want to, go ahead and add on to the other weapon you're using. Just kind of play around with the gems, see what's working for you. That's really it. Runes, anything you want. Obviously, I want to stay with what I got because it's the best setup for me. And then any insight or blood messenger stuff you don't really need to do.
Well, what is... Very well, let...
Here we want to buff our HP as much as we can. And then buy the items that you wish. I'll just buy those. There we go. Going back to the chalice that you created, you can see that it saved your progress, so go ahead and just transport back to layer 3. Okay, and kind of running out of time before the hour mark here, so I'm going to head and cut it right here. When we jump back in, we are going to go ahead and take on the final boss of the first Chalice dungeon, and then we are going to go ahead and take on the next story boss of Bloodborne and see where we're at from there. So thank you for watching, and we will return to the Chalice finish for the Pthumeru first Chalice dungeon.